Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the dark and musty laundry room, a solitary figure named Reese stood amidst the chaos of intertwined garments. A solitary pink satin fabric shimmered in the dim light, capturing his attention amidst the mundane task of laundry. With a gentle touch, he extracted the delicate fabric from the mechanical embrace of the washing machine. It was unlike anything in his robust wardrobe, obviously his roommate Natalie's. Intrigued, Reese held the garment up, inspecting its every detail. A simple button-up top with dainty white piping along the seams, accompanied by matching shorts, the set radiated femininity. Something about the fabric's sheen under the laundry room's fluorescent lights made it impossible to ignore. After finishing the loads of laundry, Reese carried the folded pink pajamas to Natalie's bedroom door. He hesitated, recalling that she'd mentioned a 3-day business trip to Chicago. The apartment would be empty until Friday evening. He returned to his room, setting the pajamas on his bed. The apartment felt different when he was alone, quieter, more private. He picked up the pink top again, running his thumb across the smooth material. Before he could reconsider, he held it against his chest, catching his reflection in the mirror mounted on his closet door. "This is stupid," he muttered, but didn't put the garment down. 20 minutes later, Reese stood before the full-length mirror, heart racing. The pink satin hugged his frame differently than it would Natalie's, but it wasn't as ill-fitting as he'd expected. The shorts revealed more of his legs than he was accustomed to, and the sleeves of the button-up top stopped short of his wrists. The collar framed his neck in a way his t-shirts never did. He turned sideways, observing his profile. The sensation of the fabric against his skin was unlike anything in his wardrobe. Cool, smooth, intimate. His fingers traced the white piping along the pocket. Without thinking, he reached up and mussed his short brown hair, trying to soften his appearance. When his phone rang, he nearly jumped out of his skin. Caller ID showed his coworker's name. Reese declined the call, suddenly aware of what he was doing. "Get a grip," he told himself, quickly unbuttoning the top. Yet, as he changed back into his jeans and hoodie, he couldn't ignore the lingering sensation of the satin against his skin. After returning the pajamas to Natalie's room, carefully folded as if they'd never been disturbed, Reese tried to focus on his evening routine. Dinner, television, emails. But his mind kept drifting back to those few minutes in front of the mirror. The next morning, he left for work earlier than usual, unable to meet his own eyes in the bathroom mirror. Something had shifted. A door cracked open that he wasn't sure how to close. At the pharmacy during his lunch break, Reese found himself in an aisle he'd never ventured down before. His fingers hovered over a package of press-on nails in a soft, baby pink shade. The purchase was impulsive, tucked quickly into his pocket as if someone might see and question him. That evening, alone in the apartment again, the pink satin pajamas found their way back onto his body. This time, he added the press-on nails, carefully applying each one according to the package instructions. His hands looked different, elegant even, with the glossy extensions catching the light as he moved his fingers. "Hello?" he whispered to his reflection, surprised by his desire to soften his voice. The person staring back at him looked familiar, yet transformed. Still Reese, but a version he'd never allowed himself to see before. He spent the evening like that, moving through the apartment in the pink satin, getting accustomed to the nails. Every time he caught his reflection, a small thrill ran through him. When bedtime came, he found himself reluctant to remove either the pajamas or the nails. By the third night, What had begun as curiosity had evolved into ritual. He'd purchased a bottle of nail polish remover to properly take off the press-ons each morning before work, only to reapply a fresh set each evening. The nails made his gestures more deliberate, more graceful. He found himself wondering what else might change if he allowed it. After a particularly stressful workday, Reese stopped at a beauty supply store on his way home. The cashier barely glanced at him as he purchased a blonde wig, shoulder-length with gentle waves. He claimed it was for a costume party when she asked, the lie coming easily. That night, he completed what was becoming a transformation. Pink satin pajamas, glossy pink nails, and now the blonde wig framing his face. The person in the mirror was becoming someone new.
Chloe,
he whispered to his reflection, the name coming from nowhere and yet feeling instantly right. I'm Chloe. He practiced walking differently, sitting with his knees together, tilting his head when he listened to imaginary conversations. Each movement felt like uncovering something that had always been there, buried beneath years of expectations and habits. For 2 weeks, this became his secret life. Reese during daylight hours, Chloe in the privacy of his room each night. He ordered more items online, a silky robe in the same pink shade, a delicate bracelet, tinted lip balm. Each addition made Chloe feel more real, more complete. Then came the night everything changed. Reese had just finished his transformation into Chloe, admiring how the blonde wig softened his features when he heard the unmistakable sound of keys in the front door lock. His heart stopped. Natalie wasn't due back until tomorrow. Reese? You home? Her voice carried down the hallway. Panic seized him. There was nowhere to hide, no way to explain the pink satin, the nails, the wig. He stood frozen in his bedroom, the door mercifully closed, but unlocked. Yeah, he called back, his voice cracking. Just a minute. His hands shook as he reached for the wig, but before he could remove it, his bedroom door swung open.
Hey, I was wondering if you...
Natalie stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening as she took in the scene before her. Reese stood paralyzed, the full reality of what he'd been doing crashing down around him. The blonde hair cascading past his shoulders, the pink satin clinging to his frame, the glossy nails catching the light.
I can explain,
he began, though he had no idea what explanation could possibly suffice. Natalie stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. Her expression was unreadable. How long has this been going on? She asked quietly.
Since your trip to Chicago,
Reese admitted, unable to meet her eyes.
I found your pajamas in the laundry and I don't know why I tried them on. It just happened.
The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken questions.
They look better on you than they do on me,
Natalie finally said, a small smile pulling at her lips. Reese looked up, uncertain whether she was mocking him. I'm serious, she continued, approaching slowly as if afraid he might bolt. Pink's definitely your color. Relief washed over him, followed immediately by embarrassment. I've been returning them to your room. I didn't think you'd notice. I noticed, she said, sitting on the edge of his bed. They smelled like your cologne, but I figured you'd tell me when you were ready. Reese sank down beside her, the blonde wig shifting slightly. I didn't even understand it myself. Still don't really. Natalie studied him for a moment. So, do you have a name when you're like this? Heat rushed to his cheeks.
Chloe, he whispered. Chloe, Natalie repeated, nodding as if approving. It suits you. She reached out, adjusting the wig where it had slipped slightly. Your wig line could use some work, and those nails are a bit too long for a beginner. Reese laughed despite himself, the tension in his shoulders easing. I didn't exactly have a teacher. You do now, Natalie said, standing up and extending her hand. Come on, Chloe. Let's fix that makeup. I'm not wearing any makeup, Reese pointed out. Exactly my point. Natalie grinned. First lesson starts now. In her bathroom, with its superior lighting and extensive collection of products, Natalie guided Reese through basics, foundation matched to his skin tone, subtle contouring to soften his jawline, mascara to emphasize his already long lashes. You have great bone structure, she commented, blending a cream highlighter along his cheekbones. And your eyes are perfect for dramatic looks. Reese watched in fascination as his features transformed under her skilled hands. The person emerging in the mirror was neither fully Reese nor completely the Chloe he'd imagined, but someone new and undeniably beautiful. There, Natalie said, stepping back to assess her work. What do you think? Reese couldn't find words. The makeup wasn't excessive. Natalie had kept it natural, but the effect was striking. His eyes looked bigger, his lips fuller, his skin luminous. I look, he began, but trailed off. You look like yourself, Natalie finished for him. Just a different facet. That night marked the beginning of a new chapter. Instead of hiding Chloe away, Reese found himself embracing this part of himself with Natalie's encouragement. Their apartment became a safe haven where he could explore his femininity without judgment. Natalie proved to be an invaluable guide, offering advice on everything from clothing choices to voice modulation. They spent evenings practicing makeup techniques, discussing the nuances of feminine presentation, and gradually building Chloe's wardrobe beyond just the pink pajamas. The key to passing, Natalie explained one evening as they sorted through online shopping options, is confidence. People pick up on hesitation. Reese nodded, clicking through a selection of blouses. I still feel ridiculous sometimes. That'll fade, she assured him. Remember how awkward you were with those first press-on nails? Now look at you. He glanced down at his hands, now sporting a professional manicure in the same baby pink shade he'd first chosen. His nails had become a constant, the one element of Chloe he maintained even in his Reese persona, explaining them away at work as the result of losing a bet. As months passed, the boundaries between Reese and Chloe began to blur. Subtle changes appeared in his everyday presentation, growing his brown hair out slightly, incorporating more androgynous clothing into his work wardrobe, adopting mannerisms that had once been reserved for his Chloe evenings. The blonde wig remained his most transformative tool, the final piece that completed his metamorphosis from Reese to Chloe. He upgraded from the beauty supply store purchase to a higher quality human hair wig, styled professionally to frame his face perfectly. 6 months after Natalie discovered his secret, Reese found himself facing a new dilemma. A close colleague was getting married, and the invitation included a +1. Bring someone from work, Natalie suggested as they discussed it over dinner. There must be someone you're interested in. Reese pushed his food around his plate.
Actually, I was thinking of bringing Chloe.
Natalie's fork paused halfway to her mouth. I mean, what if I went as Chloe? No one from work would be there. It could be a test run for being her in public. The idea had been growing in his mind for weeks.
Chloe had become more than just a nighttime persona. She felt increasingly like an authentic expression of himself. Natalie considered this, her head tilted thoughtfully. "It's a big step. Are you sure you're ready?"
No,
Reese admitted with a nervous laugh.
but I'll never know if I don't try.
The wedding was scheduled for a Saturday evening at a vineyard an hour outside the city. The weeks leading up to it were filled with preparations, selecting the perfect dress, a knee-length navy blue with subtle beading, practicing walking in modest heels, and countless hours perfecting Chloe's makeup and mannerisms. On the morning of the wedding, Reese woke with butterflies in his stomach. Natalie had taken the day off work to help him get ready, understanding the magnitude of what he was about to do. "Remember," she said, as she carefully pinned the blonde wig in place, making sure every strand of his natural brown hair was tucked away. "You've got this. You're just as much Chloe as you are Reese." The transformation took hours, shaving meticulously, applying makeup with painstaking attention to detail, dressing in the specially selected undergarments that created a more feminine silhouette beneath the navy dress. When it was complete, Chloe stood before the mirror, barely recognizing the person reflected back. The blonde waves cascaded past her shoulders, catching the light with every movement. The dress hugged her carefully padded curves, and the modest heels added height while remaining practical for an outdoor venue. "You're beautiful," Natalie said, standing beside her. "Truly." Chloe took a deep breath, smoothing her hands over the fabric of her dress. "I'm terrified." "That's normal," Natalie assured her. "But trust me, no one will question you. You look completely natural." The car ride to the vineyard was quiet, Chloe rehearsing potential conversations in her mind, practicing the slightly higher pitch she'd developed for her voice. The invitation in her clutch read Reese Anderson and guest, a technical truth that somehow felt like the most honest thing about the situation. As they approached the venue, she caught sight of herself in the car's visor mirror. Blonde hair perfect, makeup flawless, expression terrified. "I can't do this," she whispered. Natalie reached across the console, squeezing her hand. "Yes, you can. And you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You're just a friend of Reese's from out of town, attending as his +1. The cover story was simple. Reese had been called away unexpectedly for a family emergency, but didn't want his invitation to go to waste. Chloe was a childhood friend visiting the city, happy to attend in his place. With one final deep breath, she stepped out of the car and into her first public appearance. The ceremony was beautiful, set against rolling vineyard hills, bathed in golden evening light. Chloe sat toward the back, Natalie beside her, providing silent support. With each passing minute, her rigid posture relaxed slightly. No one gave her a second glance beyond the polite smiles exchanged between strangers at such gatherings. During the reception, she even found herself engaging in conversation with other guests, the practiced introduction, "I'm Chloe, a friend of Reese's," becoming easier with each repetition. She sipped champagne, laughed at the best man's jokes, and even accepted a brief dance with one of the groomsmen. "You're a natural," Natalie whispered, as they took a moment alone at their table. "I told you no one would question it." Chloe's smile was genuine, a weight lifting from her shoulders. "I feel right." The revelation wasn't sudden, but rather the culmination of months of self-discovery. Standing there in the navy dress, blonde hair catching the twinkling lights strung above the dance floor, Chloe understood that this wasn't just a costume or a performance. This was an authentic expression of who she'd always been. On the drive home, the car filled with excited chatter about the wedding, the conversations,
the success of the evening. It was only as they approached their apartment that a new kind of nervousness settled over Chloe. "What happens tomorrow?" she asked quietly. Natalie glanced over. "What do you mean? Do I go back to being Reese? Pretend tonight never happened?" The question hung between them as Natalie parked the car. She turned off the engine but made no move to exit. "That depends," she finally said. "What do you want?" The answer came more easily than expected. "I want to be Chloe. Not just at night or at weddings, but always." Saying the words aloud made them real, terrifying and liberating in equal measure. Natalie nodded, as if she'd been expecting this conclusion. "Then, that's what we'll work toward." The transition wasn't immediate. Life rarely accommodates such dramatic shifts without resistance. Monday morning came, and Reese returned to work, the navy dress and blonde wig safely tucked away at home. But something fundamental had changed. A decision had been made, a path chosen. Over the following months, Reese began the methodical process of becoming Chloe permanently. There were consultations with therapists specializing in gender identity, research into medical options, careful planning for the professional and social implications. The blonde wig, once a transformation tool, became a symbol of the person waiting to emerge fully. Each time Reese put it on, becoming Chloe for evenings and weekends, the separation between his two selves grew thinner. Natalie remained his steadfast ally, helping navigate the complexities of coming out to friends, researching legal name changes, and preparing for the inevitable conversations with family and coworkers. "Take it one step at a time," she advised during a particularly overwhelming evening. "You don't have to figure everything out tonight." Reese, increasingly thinking of himself as Chloe, even when presenting as male, took the advice to heart. Each small step built toward the larger transition, growing out his natural hair, starting hormone therapy that slowly softened his features, gradually adjusting his wardrobe toward more androgynous styles that could eventually shift fully feminine. The day came, nearly a year after that first discovery of the pink satin pajamas, when Chloe was ready to make her permanent debut. She'd taken a 2-week vacation from work, using the time to update her legal documentation and prepare for her return as her authentic self. The morning of her first day back, she stood before the mirror in her bedroom, the same mirror that had reflected her earliest explorations of femininity. The blonde wig was perfectly styled, indistinguishable from natural hair. Her makeup, now applied with the confidence of daily practice, enhanced rather than masked her features. The conservative blouse and pencil skirt respected workplace norms while honoring her identity. "Ready?" Natalie asked from the doorway. Chloe nodded, running her pink manicured fingers through the blonde waves one last time. "As I'll ever be." The office had been prepared through careful HR discussions and emails to colleagues explaining her transition. Still, nothing could fully ready her for the moment she walked through those doors, no longer hiding, no longer pretending. There were awkward moments, certainly. Colleagues who stumbled over pronouns, clients momentarily confused by the new name on her email signature, the occasional discomfort in the bathroom or break room. But there was also profound acceptance, particularly from those who recognized the courage required to live authentically. "You seem happier," her supervisor commented a few weeks into the transition. "More confident." "I am," Chloe acknowledged. "It turns out being yourself takes less energy than pretending to be someone else." The journey wasn't complete. Transitions rarely have neat endings, but the pink satin pajamas that had started it all held a place of honor in her wardrobe,
On evenings when the world felt particularly challenging, she would wear them, remembering the first time she'd glimpsed her true self in the mirror. 1 year to the day after Natalie had walked in on her roommate in pink satin and a blonde wig, they celebrated with a small dinner party at their apartment. The gathering included the close friends who had supported Chloe's transition, creating a circle of acceptance that had proved invaluable. After the guests departed, Chloe and Natalie sat on their balcony, glasses of wine in hand, watching the city lights. "Did you ever imagine we'd be here when you found me in your pajamas?" Chloe asked. Natalie smiled, looking out at the skyline. "Not specifically, but I always knew there was more to you than you showed the world." She turned to face her roommate, raising her glass. "To pink satin and new beginnings." Chloe clinked her glass against Natalie's, her pink nails catching the light. "And to friendships that let us become who we're meant to be." The blonde hair that had once been a disguise now fell naturally around her shoulders, as much a part of her as the name she'd whispered to her reflection all those months ago. Chloe watched the city below, feeling for perhaps the first time the perfect alignment between her inner self and outer presentation. The pink satin pajamas that started everything still felt magical against her skin, but now they were simply clothes. Beautiful clothes that happened to have changed the course of her life, but no longer the only means of expressing her true identity. That night, as Chloe prepared for bed in those same pink pajamas, she caught her reflection in the mirror, blonde hair loose around her shoulders, pink nails matching the satin fabric, features softened by months of hormone therapy. The person looking back at her was no longer a secret self, hidden away when daylight came, but simply Chloe, in all her authentic complexity. She smiled at her reflection, remembering the fear and confusion of that first night. The journey from Reese to Chloe hadn't been easy, but standing there in the pink satin that had started it all, she knew with absolute certainty that it had been worth every difficult step. In the morning, she would wake up as Chloe, go to work as Chloe, live her life as Chloe, the person she had always been, finally free to exist not just in the safe confines of a shared apartment, but in the full light of day, exactly as she was meant to be.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!